Welcome to the game reviews for this year's 2024's British Chess Championships. So, yes, I did participate again for this year, and unlike last year, where it took basically an entire year to upload the videos for all 5 of my games, we're hopefully going to be breaking that record. I mean, we're setting a good pace here. It's only been 2 or 3 days after my last game, and we're recording the review for the first video right now. So, pretty good. Obviously, not Hikaru or Levi levels of speed here in terms of the video uploads, but hey, I can't keep up with them. This is good enough in my book. So I guess I should address the title before going any further. Yes, I did, or at least made an attempt to play as a Catboy in the tournament. I got this cute pink sweater from an anime convention a month earlier, and I thought it would be cool if I just got a bunch of cute things and just wore them to the competition. You see, I thought it'd be funny if the goal is not to win, but to instead demoralize and deal as much emotional damage to as many people as possible by beating everyone's asses at chess as I wear cute pink stuff. In truth, I wanted to get cat ears and a bunch of other stuff, but I think I've hurt my wallet enough already by going on this trip, so that'll have to wait for next year, I guess. On a related note, I'm almost on my way to monetization, so you guys better watch this video till the end, because that 1 cent per video I'll be making is definitely gonna help. So, let's talk about the tournament now. It's a 5-round tournament, and it's spread across 3 days. I played in the under 1750 rating group, so my rating at the start of the tournament was around 1640, I believe, which is kind of the average rating of people within this group. There were a few 1500s, a couple of 1700s, while the rest were just my rating range, somewhere in the 1600s. So that's the playing field I'm up against. What else? Time control, that was an hour 30 minutes with 30-second increment. Basically, well, no, exactly the same as last year's format. I personally think that the games this year that I had were more interesting, more entertaining than the ones from the previous year. So look forward to it. There will be some crazy games ahead. This first one was pretty good. I'm playing as white against Adve Misra, I think was the name. So I actually did a bit of research on this opponent beforehand. The pairings were out like a couple hours before the round starts, so I had time to look and stalk his online accounts, and I figured out that he plays the French. So against the French, I usually play the Tarrasch variation, which works pretty well. I'm happy with that opening. I did take a lot of opening advice from a friend. He's, I think, about 2,100, something like that. That's his rating on chess.com, so he's pretty good, and so was his advice. It probably helped earn me some points in this tournament, we'll say. So, thanks to him for that. So in this specific case, the Tarrasch has always been my opening, but he recommended the f4 variation of the Tarrasch, which you're supposed to play at this stage. Now, this is not what I usually play. I play knight f3. That's what I usually do. So I've never played f4 before. Apparently, it's supposed to be super good, as he claims. So I thought, okay, I should probably play this against him in the tournament. Problem is, I don't know any theory in this line. That's fine, I guess. I have like 2 or 3 hours before the tournament formally begins, so I can use that time to prepare and study. And that I did, and it was pretty easy to grasp actually. I'll talk about the theory a bit more later as the game progresses. But yeah, after 2 or 3 hours, I felt comfortable with playing f4, even though I haven't done it at all previously. So f4 is what I played, c5, c3, knight c6, basic French stuff, and we have knight d to f3. Now this move probably needs a bit of explanation. Now this is part of the theory. As you can see, we have 1,800 games in the Masters database, and the more reasonable / normal looking knight g to f3 is actually a slight inaccuracy, and it is a drastically rarer move at the higher levels. So what is super weird about this knight move? It's the fact that you're moving the same piece twice in the opening, which is something you're typically told not to do. This is one of the cases where you can and indeed should break that rule. The idea is you don't want your knight here because it's blocking the queen, it's blocking the bishop, it's awkward there. Alright, if you move this knight here, then where's this knight supposed to go? Well, how about e2? Like, there's literally nothing wrong about e2. It is able to protect the d pawn here, which is something that's really important. After all, black's objective in the French is to pile on pressure to this d pawn and attack it as much as possible, whereas when we're playing as white, our objective is to hold on to this pawn and make sure that it doesn't fall. Because if it falls, then we're just dead. And we'll see a good example of the importance of the d pawn later on as we move on through the game. So yeah, that is why the knight placement on these two squares is super important, because both knights are able to supervise the d pawn, and we don't have anything in the way of the queen, which is also supervising this d pawn. If you compare that to the alternate knight positioning, which involves the knights being on these two squares, then we see that only one knight contributes to the defense of the d pawn, whilst the other knight over here does not contribute to the defense of the d4 pawn. In fact, it hinders it by blocking the queen's access to the d4 pawn. So yes, that's the explanation behind knight d to f3, why we are supposed to move the same piece twice in the opening. And again, this is something that I learned within those 2 to 3 hours. So we have takes. I play a3, which is also another common move in these types of positions, just preventing any of these sorts of shenanigans from taking place. He continues castles, so I play bishop d3, developing the bishop first before bringing the knight out. So we have the setup complete. Takes. Queen here, adding more pressure to this d pawn, which I can ignore because I have these two very well positioned knights. So I play queen c2 here, and I think this should just be crushing. I'm attacking the h7 pawn, and black has no good defense here. All of his pieces are not super well placed. This knight can't go anywhere, it's basically trapped. This bishop is just blocked by this pawn and this knight, both of which can't go anywhere. You can't push this pawn, you can't move this knight to anywhere good, and I have this attack and he can't do anything about it. g6 is just unthinkable. I mean, we have our pieces coming in, we have these pawns we can push. It's just gonna be checkmate in a couple of moves, probably. g6 off the table, which leaves us with h6, which is what he played. Now you may observe that black in fact does have a saving move over here. Rook takes knight. Now this highlights the importance of the d4 pawn, because the idea with this rook sacrifice here is to get rid of one of the defenders of the d4 pawn, and with that, black can knock the d4 pawn down, and with it, the e5 pawn also falls. Now just think about it. White has this attack just gearing up and ready to go within the next couple of moves, while black's pieces are just not optimally placed to deal with this sort of attack. Despite all of that, black can recover. Even being down an exchange, black is just completely fine as long as he manages to get rid of this D pawn, right? So that just highlights how important, how integral the D pawn is for white. So let's look at this line then, just to see what's up. We have takes, knight takes, queen takes. This pawn is about to fall, so f4. Now, it's not super straightforward. Black will have to find another crazy move, knight takes e5, another sacrifice on top of the exchange sack here. It's the only way to equality. You can play bishop h4, but that's a stalling move. You go king f1, and then, well, you have to play knight takes e5 eventually at some point, right? Because every other move just gives the advantage back to white, as the computer suggests. So even if black does find the rook takes, it's still not super straightforward. Still quite hard to play for black. So after knight takes, how does it go? We have bishop d7, the rook's coming in, and white's king is just super exposed. Black can create all of these threats, and white can't progress or do anything. The king is just too exposed, there's too much danger involved, and it can't hide anywhere as well. So yeah, black is able to survive and keep the draw by just exploiting the fact that the white king is super weak. Alas, he didn't find his move, so h6. I played check, and then I brought the knight in, threatening this fork. Now I am aware that this knight move does give up the d-pawn, but I calculated knight takes, check, king takes, knight takes, king back, knight takes, queen takes, knight g6. You can't take this pawn because you lose the bishop, and we're just going to protect it with f4 next. And okay, this is where my calculation sort of stops. So how did I evaluate this position? I thought this was pretty good for me. I am up in exchange, and black's king is super weak. So yeah, we're just gonna try to launch an attack, yada yada yada, and it'll probably work out for me. Thing is, computer thinks this is a draw, and it's probably because my king is also unsafe and black has some counterplay associated with that. So, yep, he should have gone for the knight takes line, but I guess he wasn't too keen about losing the exchange. Tried something else. Tried queen here. I block with the bishop, and he deals with this by playing knight b4, blocking the bishop. Now I can't take because of that. Also can't take with the bishop because bishop recaptures. If I do pawn takes, then, well, same thing. If I move my king away after bishop takes, then this knight at the end of the line is hanging. So, yep, can't deal with this knight. So what do? Well, the major problem that I'm dealing with is the fact that I can't take with the pawn because this rook is just gonna die. So I'm gonna protect the rook whilst also, well, my queen's under attack. So I'm gonna move it away and simultaneously protect the rook while I'm at it. So yeah, this is a good move. This is a winning move for me because I'm threatening two things. I'm threatening to take the knight with the pawn this time, and that's possible because the queen protects the rook. I'm also threatening this fork, which wins me an exchange. He plays rook takes, play pawn takes, so he gets my knight. I recapture it, so materials equal now. But the queen is under attack, so it has to move. But after it moves, then I just get the rook, and I'm just a clean rook up. But unfortunately, I kind of misplayed this a bit and made this position a lot more complicated than it needed to be. I played this intermezzo, bishop d3. I thought, okay, let's kick the queen out of this diagonal first. It's looking pretty scary, controlling all of these squares. So I'm going to kick the queen out and then capture the rook. So what I failed to see was he had an intermezzo of his own. Rook e4. So now I don't get the rook for free. I have to give my bishop up for it. So I'll just be up an exchange instead of being up a full rook. So that's what happened. I'm still winning, of course, but it's just a lot more complicated now. He plays bishop takes, so I play rook b1 to defend the pawn. If he trades, that's fine. I'll allow it, because I'm up material, so trade is good for me. I'm not complaining. I'll recapture with the knight, and at the end of the line, this b pawn will be protected. She rejects, and so okay, fine. I'll start an attack then. g4, which is good, but the best way to attack, as Stockfish suggests, is h4. And the idea is we're going to do a rook lift. Rook to h3, rook to g3, maybe throw in the queen as well, and then just target this g7 pawn. But g4 works as well. Going for g5, essentially just crashing open the king side here. And he offers a queen trade, which I rejected because I don't know, I couldn't really think of a way to create a passed pawn in this situation. Can't really attack this weak c pawn either because he just plays bishop b7. He's going to get his rook in and try to target my d pawn. It's not a clear-cut endgame is what I'm trying to say, although it probably is still winning, as the engine suggests. So, yep. Didn't really want to go for an endgame. Would much rather continue with my attack and hope for a checkmate. But I ended up making things a lot more complicated by rejecting the queen trade. First of all, I've just given black full access over this very powerful light square diagonal over here, which he can further reinforce by developing his bishop. Another point is this queen is super well positioned right where it is because it's doing an important job. That is, it's stopping this b pawn from going forward. Obviously, if it goes forward, then I just capture the rook. Or why is it important for black to push this pawn forward? Well, because it allows him to develop the bishop and then bring out the rook. He doesn't play the pawn push though. He continues with d5. The idea is knight c5, I can't take because of the pin, followed by knight e4, and this knight is just gonna be super annoying and just wreak havoc to my position here. So I'm just thinking I probably shouldn't allow that. And I did think correctly, because let's say I just continue with my attack here, with my plan of playing g5. Then we have, I'll turn on the engine here, we have knight here, and only move is queen g6. Everything else is a minus, just gives the advantage over to black. So let's say I play queen g6. It doesn't end there. We have knight e4 check, and then again, only move king e2. Everything else is either a draw or a loss. And again, it's not over. You have to calculate these queen checks. You have to calculate bishop takes or knight takes. It's just like, sure, the computer can find a way out of this. It's +3 for white here. But, oh my god, like, just no, right? Like, clearly, as a human, I have to stop this from happening. So that's what I do as a human. I stop 95 from being played. Now, computer hates this because essentially I'm wasting a move in order to prevent a threat that's not supposed to technically be a threat, since the computer can defend against it. And that allows black an extra tempo, which is all black needs in order to complicate this position by a lot. b6, we've already talked about black's plan to activate the rest of their pieces. And he continues with his plan, bishop b7. So I have to be super careful here because the rook's going to slide over, pinning the knight. Let's say I take and rook comes here. Can I defend the knight? Well, okay, only move that defends the knight is rook b3. But I saw this and I found rook takes, queen takes, queen takes. And the idea is I'm under check and this bishop is attacking my queen. So I could defend, but while simplest is queen trade, rook takes, bishop takes, doesn't matter. Point is you lose the rook at the corner here at the end of the line, and this is just a losing endgame for white. So I can't defend with rook b3, so that gave me another idea. What if I swing the rook over here and defend from the other side? That'll eliminate the issue that I was having with rook b3, because now if rook takes, then just rook takes instead of queen takes. So how did I go about executing this plan? Well, I did pawn takes, which forces the king onto the g-file. That way I can swing my rook to the g-file with tempo, and then swing it up, and that defends the knight. Now, obviously there's bishop here, which I saw, but black can never really take this rook, because if he does, then pawn takes activates this other rook, and it'll just be checkmate. So I just move away from the pin. Let's say here, you still can't take because it's checkmate, and you also can't take because rook takes, then rook takes. But apparently black can complicate things with knight takes, and apparently it's just a draw. Any other move apart from bishop h4, I just ignored because, well, I have rook h3 and then queen h7 with mate soon to come after. You will notice that black did have a move after pawn takes, which is knight takes. And apparently this works because now that the battery has been built, black can sacrifice and the queen gets in. I can't play this because this is mate. Therefore, I am forced to lose a rook, which, yeah, that's just game over for me. Neither of us saw that. Both of us were looking at rook f8, which is the more human way to play. So again, we go into this position here, and he didn't play bishop h4. He played knight takes. And for a moment I freaked out because, like, oh my god, this looks super dangerous. I can't move the knight. My queen's under attack. I can't take with the pawn. And then after like 10-20 seconds, I'm like, oh, right, I accounted for this. Rook h3, king here, queen here, king here, bishop here, and it's mate. And that's how it played out. He allowed me the satisfaction of the checkmate. He mentioned at the end that he just, that rook h3 just completely slipped his mind. So yeah, that was the first game. Ended in the victory for me. So pretty cool. That's it for now. I'll see you in the next game. Goodbye.